Today, after 2 years of negotiations, the United States, together with our international partners, has achieved something that decades of animosity has not. A comprehensive long-term deal with Iran that will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This deal demonstrates that American diplomacy can bring about real and meaningful change. Change that makes our country and the world safer and more secure.
The Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA to its friends, was supposed to be the capstone diplomatic achievement of Barack Obama's presidency. It was, to all intents and purposes, Obama's attempt at winning a second Nobel Prize after the one they gave him back in 2009 because he was just so cool and dreamy. It was signed almost exactly 1 decade ago, and given the current geopolitical situation, it's probably not a bad time to revisit it. The other thing that happened exactly 10 years ago, just about, was Donald Trump first descending the golden escalator and making his entry into national politics. The Iran nuclear deal gets concluded barely 30 days after that. And since he is a candidate for the presidency now, Trump has much to say about it. He says it's a stupid deal. He says it's the establishment doing the same thing the establishment always does, kicking the can down the road. He says, we're sending these guys literal pallets of cash based on assurances they are unlikely to ever live up to, and the assurances are only temporary anyway, so what the actual hell are we doing here? It sort of harkens back to what Marshal Foch said about the Versailles Treaty when he famously and correctly declared, this is not a peace, it is an armistice for 20 years. But what was actually in the Iran nuclear deal, and why was it such a stunning and spectacular failure? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's Thursday, the 19th of June. This is Curmudgeon's Corner. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where I've been binge-watching Iron Chef the last few days, and I still enjoy that show just as much as I did 28 years ago. And I still don't fully understand why that is, but I guess Japanese TV is sneaky that way. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. America and all ships at sea. Welcome to Curmudgeon's Corner. Let's talk about the diplomatic track record, such as it is, of the Biden-Bama administration. And no, I didn't invent that term. Joe Biden did that.
Hello, Biden-Bama Democrat.
So talk to him about it. He's down at the swimming pool, making the kids rub his leg hair.
I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down, so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again.
Yes, Joe, we know. Now, the Iran nuclear deal, strictly speaking, is not a treaty between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. It very much is that as a practical matter, but to give it the imprimatur, the veneer of carrying the weight of semi-international law, it technically is an agreement between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the P5+1. No, that's not the name of a Korean boy band. It actually refers to the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, plus Germany. Say, Paul, how come Germany's not a permanent member of the Security Council and Russia is? Well, son, remind me again sometime, and I'll tell you the story of Operation Barbarossa. Or we could do it right now. My God, I think Jim Eagle's even playing the Soviet national anthem, but no? You stop that right this instant. It's only a 10-minute show, for Christ's sake. We just don't have time for a World War II military history deep dive. It's not that kind of show. It's a show where the host remains razor-focused on the actual topic the entire time and doesn't digress off into the weeds like a geriatric old man from Delaware.
I got hairy legs.
Yes, Joe, we know. The JCPOA gets signed on 15 July 2015. It takes effect on 20 January 2016. We agreed to give Iran literal pallets of cash. The other members of the P5+1 are less eager to be full partners in the deal when it comes to actually ponying up the cash, as is their habit, and Iran agrees to do the following. And please try not to laugh too hard as I'm reading through these things, or else I will be forced to use the laugh track button, and nobody wants that. Number 1, for 13 years, so that gets us through 2029, Iran agrees to eliminate its stockpile of medium-enriched uranium, cut its stockpile of low-enriched uranium by 98%, and reduce by about 2/3 the number of its gas centrifuges. Number 2, for 15 years, until 2031, Iran agrees to enrich uranium only up to 3.67% and not to build heavy water facilities. Number 3, for 10 years, in other words, up until next week, Uranium enrichment will be limited to a single facility using first-generation centrifuges. Other facilities will be converted to avoid proliferation risks. Number 4, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, to its friends, will have regular access to all Iranian nuclear facilities to monitor compliance. Now, do you remember that famous day in October of 1938 when Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain flew back from Munich and started waving around a piece of paper containing the signatures of myself and the German Chancellor Herr Hitler, and declaring that he had secured peace for our time because obviously the foreign despot would never agree to a deal and then not live up to it, right? Right? And you know how that infamous piece of footage has served as an object lesson to all subsequent world leaders about how bad you can wind up looking when you trust the assurances of despotic regimes that have clearly stated their geopolitical aims and have no real intention of deviating from them? Well, Barack Obama either never heard of World War II or he was too busy smelling the sweet, sweet aroma of his own farts and couldn't be bothered being reminded of the example of Mr. Chamberlain. Because Obama pretty much went full Chamberlain here. You never go full Chamberlain, but Obama didn't care. He went full Chamberlain. What did he think was going to happen when the 10 or 13 or 15 years were up? Unclear. But he nonetheless rushed straight to the nearest podium and declared the problem solved and said in so many words that, yeah, I think I probably should get a second Nobel Prize if I'm being honest. In addition to the first one that I got just for being me. And sure, it's easy for critics to say the Nobel Peace Prize reduced itself to nothing more than a purple participation ribbon when they gave me that first one, but does that make me want a second one any less? It does not. Now, it took Trump until May of 2018 to announce that we were repudiating the Iran deal and withdrawing from it because it was fucking stupid. Why did it take him almost a year and a half into his term of office before he did that? Unclear. But we kept delivering the pallets of cash that we agreed to deliver, while the Iranians laughed at us for being such a bunch of rubes and kept ignoring the provisions of the deal and happily used the money we gave them to continue being the number one financier of world terrorism. And then Biden becomes president, allegedly, in January of 2021 and immediately reactivates the deal and resumes delivering the pallets of cash, while the Iranians continued to laugh at us for being such a bunch of rubes and kept ignoring the provisions of the deal, just like they'd been doing all along. But don't try telling that to the Biden-Bama foreign policy bros, bro. Because they will say, nah, bro, our Iranian bros were totally abiding by the deal, bro. They never enriched one drop of uranium. They never spun a single centrifuge up until Trump stopped sending the pallets of cash. And everything they've achieved since then, that only happened in the 2.5 years between Trump stopping the pallets of cash and President Autopen resuming the pallets of cash. That's our story, bro, and we're sticking to it, bro. But wait, I hear you say, what about the IAEA inspectors? Weren't they supposed to have unfettered access to all the Iranian nuclear sites this whole time? Well, yes, but sadly, the next time IAEA inspectors prevent a rogue state from building a nuclear bomb will be the first time. It's kind of a fun microcosm of the whole United Nations in general, really, because when you show up with your team of inspectors and you say, take me to all your nuclear sites, you're still only going to see the locations that they choose to show you. To the extent that the inspectors themselves know the difference between the actual sites of concern and the sites they're actually being shown, well, that depends on how much intelligence the intelligence agencies of the countries that are party to the deal have chosen to share with them. But here's the way it usually plays out. The inspectors show up and they say, we want to inspect Site A, Site B, Site C, and Site D. And then the Iranians say, okay, we'll take you to A, B, and C, because those are the fake sites that we're supposed to show you, that we already know you know about. But we never told anybody about Site D. If you guys know about Site D, it is because someone shared that intelligence with you, and we will give you a $10 million bribe from our Biden-Bama terrorism fund for you to tell us which country and which agency it was that told you that. And we will give you a further $5 million to file a report that says you inspected all 4 sites, everything's hunky-dory, there's no nuclear activity happening, we are all good. The fact that the present situation exists tells the story. of the abject, comical, and really quite predictable failure of the Biden-Bama-Iran nuclear deal of 2015. It was signed a decade ago. It's been in force for a total of 7.5 out of those 10 years, and did it do one single thing to retard Iran's pursuit of uranium enrichment? No, it did not. If anything, it only facilitated and contributed to said pursuit. I heard yesterday that Rahm Emanuel wants to run for president in 2028, and you know what I say to that? I say, no, Barack, you already had your 3 terms, you don't get a 4th one. I'm done, that's all I got. See you tomorrow. Get off my lawn.